Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivemy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, we are talking about the new season, Season 3 of Star Trek Picard.
Star Trek Picard. We did Season 1, and now we're doing Season 3. We missed the middle part. Sorry about that.
Don't even worry about it.
Don't worry about Season 2. Genuinely, it was a time travel season, and it didn't matter.
Don't even worry about
it.
Don't even worry about it.
It didn't relate.
I'm telling you to not worry about it.
So don't worry about that, but worry about Season 3. Of Star Trek Picard, because we're talking about it all, every spoilie.
Yes, we're going to give you a spoiler-free review, so in case you're on the fence about catching up or watching it, or you just want a taste of the episode before you're fully finished, we are going to give you a spoiler-free review. Then, once you hear the theme music, that is going to be when we enter our spoiler-filled section, where we will be talking about the entirety of Season 3 of Star Trek Picard. But to start with a simple spoiler-free review, for any of you who are uncertain about it, Diana, did you like it?
I loved it. I have 2 huge complaints in the spoiler-filled section.
Oh, huge!
They're pretty big.
Wow! I didn't expect huge.
But the complaints are only so big because I loved it so much.
Huh,
If I didn't like this show, the complaints would be small. But I'm like, you're almost perfect, except for these 2 things. So that's why the complaints seem big. But yes, I loved it. This was such a love letter and a good, reimagining of Star Trek to this day. It is a mash of the old and a new in a way that is really nice. It's not like we're just doing old Star Trek again, because it's not episodic. It is one long story, which is not how we used to do it back in the day. So that it's a really nice combination of both kinds of Star Trek that is happening right now. And it's just, the performances are great. I think the plot is great, which I don't often say about long, drawn-out Star Trek plots. I don't think they're particularly great at it, but it's clever, it makes sense, it's interesting. The villains are really cool. I cried a bunch. I laughed a bunch. This season was phenomenal. I had a great time. It is so hard to talk about this and not say any spoilers whatsoever. Holy crap.
Even in just responding to you, I almost said a couple spoilers just in response.
Yes, There's many a spoiler to be had. But if you liked TNG, absolutely please watch Season 3 of Star Trek Picard.
Yes, absolutely. I fully agree with that. I'm of a similar energy to you. I loved it. I adored this season. I think that it is just it's wall-to-wall phenomenal. Performance, writing, set, look, vibes, title sequence,
the title sequence!
Score, compass, every single aspect of it. Jackets, costumes, everyone looks the coolest and sexiest that they've looked in a long time. Just everything is pretty much impeccable. I loved it. I had a phenomenal time. I'd happily watch it again. Mm-hmm. It is a blast. It is a fun vibe. It is so well done. I would say I have 2 mild criticisms. I'm not going to say big complaints like you. I have 2 mild complaints, and then I have 2 things that I'll goof on that I know are unreasonable complaints, but we're just having fun here. But that's really all I've got. 2 mild complaints, 2 goofy complaints, and for the most part, just head over heels love over this thing that I completely adore. And I agree with you. It is the perfect mix of obviously nostalgia for the origin material, while adding a certain sense of modernity to it and modernizing it a bit without betraying everything that it's based upon, which is a razor thin edge to walk along. And we exist in an age now of a lot of media and properties trying to do this, of trying to ride that most profitable razor thin line of how do we market to the people who remember the original while modernizing it and bringing in new people. And every company wants to do it because it's the most profitable thing and the most welcoming thing, but it's the most difficult thing. And this just really walks that line successfully.
Yeah, it really nailed it. It told a great story that made sense first, and then it was how are we gonna click on your heartstrings and pull old stuff into this?
Yeah,
and we're gonna, and also just as you said, everything is phenomenal, from mixing the soundtracks together, from the opening title sequences to these goddamn jackets. I need one of these so bad. They're
the jackets
so cool.
Look good. The jackets look so cool. Everything.
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 Everything slaps.
Yeah. And can it be spoiled?
Yes. Oh my God. I'm like, we need to finish this section. I can't even say words because it is so spoiler filled of a season. Jam-packed spoiler filled.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It is wall-to-wall spoiler filled. Even in trying to talk about it with like metaphors and comparisons, it's still hard to not spoil it. Some legitimate twists and turns, and also I just think in terms of talking about its style and how it executes a lot of things, it's a little bit spoilery as well. So yeah, I think some heavy spoilers here if you're a Star Trek fan, and even if you're not a deep lore Star Trek fan, because I know that there are some listeners and some people out there who are like, maybe didn't grow up on it, and some of the newer series, whether it be Strange New Worlds or Picard or Discovery or Lower Decks or whatever it might be, is kind of your foray and your entry point. I would say that even if you don't have a necessarily like deep lore, there is still just enough plot twists and turns naturally, just in terms of organic storytelling, that this can be spoiled as well, and you kind of want to experience it, even if you're new-ish to the Star Trek world.
Yeah, just in terms of storytelling, I think there were 2 or 3 points where we went, oh, that's brilliant. Didn't see that coming. And that's not related to knowing anything about previous Star Trek. So I was like, that's just good writing.
Yeah, not an Easter egg, not a cameo, just, that's really good, clean writing.
Clever.
Look at that. Look at you being clever.
Love that. Thank you. Mm-hmm. New stuff to like.
Love a bit of new stuff to like.
Love some new stuff.
Well, that is, I think that'll do it for the spoiler-free review. We're both a high love with I with a couple of complaints, you with a couple of big complaints.
So mad.
And and it can be spoiled. So now let's get into the spoiler-filled section. Let's talk more about Season 3 of Star Trek Picard.
Woo!
All right, we have seen Season 3 of Picard.
Oh, I have never been so happy to get out of a spoiler-filled free section.
Yes, yeah.
I feel like I even gave too much away there.
Even in the spoiler-free section, one metaphor I was going to use when you were talking about how like it feels like the old with the new, 2 things that I immediately wanted to say as like examples of that, where I was going to be like, yeah, it actually feels like the characters and the world of TNG with the writing style of DS9.
Ooh.
But even with like the Changelings and the Dominion War playing a pivotal plot point in the show, I was like, maybe that's too spoilery. And even the combination of the old with the modern, one that is a definite spoilery example I was going to use for that was, I'm like, well, Data uses contractions now. And that is
You can't mention Data's here.
I can't mention Data's here, or that he's evolved to now be able to use contractions.
I love that that's what you think his evolution is. He's like going to therapy and crying, but you're like, contractions though.
In terms of modern writing, because obviously it's written into the character, but I think we even discussed this when we talked about Strange New Worlds, kind of modernizing, even though, in the timeline it takes place in the past, but modernizing how Trek is written, that people use contractions and colloquialisms, and they're more casual, and there's ums and ahs, as opposed to this very traditional original series, and to a certain extent TNG, like Shakespearean diction of like, and not just Data, of the like, I have set the phasors to stun, as opposed to like, I've said it, Captain. I'm like, did you say captain? Like crunch? Like, like that level of like, there's little contractions that happen now in Star Trek writing that did not used to happen. And I think Data's evolution is kind of a personification of that. But to bring that up when you were talking about it would have been, obviously, an insane spoiler.
An absolutely huge spoiler. So I'm just going to, you know what? You've probably watched it, but I'm going to throw all the spoilers out there because I need to get them off. The entire crew comes back. Picard has a kid. It's the Borg and the Changelings. Borg Queen's also back.
Boom.
Boom. What a season.
Yeah. The full TNG cast, pretty much.
Full TNG. Everyone but Wesley and Tasha Yar.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, Barclay's not there.
Oh, Barclay's here. You're like, where's Barclay?
I was just like, who's the 7th build or the 9th build of that cast?
Definitely deep bench is Barclay.
Yeah. Like, he gets regular season minutes, but not playoff time.
Yeah. I was actually surprised they didn't have O'Brien anywhere.
I was a little bit...
Just because he lives both worlds like Worf does.
He is, but he really only got his strong characterization on DS9.
He did.
You know
Worf
what I mean?
was a TNG guy.
Yeah. I mean, if we're getting Tuvok, I wouldn't have been surprised to get some O'Brien, you know? Like, we got more too. So I see what you're saying there. I can get on board. But yeah, the original cast, all the hits are back. And and even with the Borg and the Borg Queen, the hits are back, and then a touch of DS9 with Changelings and the Dominion War coming into play.
Yeah, not too much DS9, just enough that they were like, we're kind of going to span everything. And I think that's why Tuvok's back, to also bring Voyager in, even though Seven's also here.
Oh, good point.
Although on Voyager, they fought the Borg a lot, because the Borg
Yes.
are out deep in space. So they were like, oh shit, Borg. So Voyager is also very Borg-like in that way. Not the actual Borg Queen, which we saw in like First Contact, and we know very well from that. But so yeah, they really did pull in all the like 90s Star Trek in such an interesting, perfect way.
Yeah.
Because like, the restraint to slowly introduce every character.
Yeah.
And not even just one per episode. Like sometimes it would still be like just 2 episodes with just Riker. And then we've got like 1 episode with Geordi. And then 2 episodes where we only have Worf added. And like finally we get Data at the very end. Like so much restraint of just being like, we were not going to have like 1 episode where we assemble the team.
Restraint without milking it as well.
Ooh, yes.
Because I also think that like a lot of the nostalgia cash-in porn that happens within, which
it's obscene.
Which it's obscene, which happens within fandom. A lesser writing would have been the milking it of the like episode 1. It's like we have to get everyone back together. And then it's like, we know episode by episode, it's like, this is the one where we have to go get Riker. This is the one where we have to go get Geordi. This is the one where we have to go get Beverly. And it would have just been like, we're building up to, we're stalling until we have them all in the room. But it feels like the natural evolution of a story that all of them happen to fall perfectly into. It's not the Hunt for Beverly episode. It is not the Hunt for Data episode. It is, oh shit, Data's here. Fuck, here we go. And it's just really fun.
Yeah, no, they pulled everyone in such a realistic, natural way of not just of like, we call each other for help because we're friends, but also like Worf's doing his own investigation as a spy, but it connects to what we're doing. So he gets pulled in naturally. We need to go see Geordi because we need ships, and he runs the museum that isn't connected to this new technological system of ships. So yeah, just incredibly smart ways of pulling in every single cast member. Even like nice cameos like Ro. Was wonderful to see, like, and she just fit in so naturally. It didn't even feel like stunt casting. I was just like, yeah, of course she's part of this world. She would be a badass trying to take down the Changelings.
Yeah,
absolutely love this.
Yeah, I adore it. It all felt so organic, so natural, just pristine.
Absolutely pristine. I don't know if I want to get into my negatives.
Lay one negative on me. We're starting pretty generous. I feel like that was a lot of gushing without getting into like super detail, but let's lay one negative down.
Well, here's a negative which I think is enforced by my love. I think Shaw's death was done super dirty, and I loved Shaw.
I agree with this.
This was so short. It had no agency. It had no lesson to it. He just gets shot by a rando Borg intern. They're not ensigns, not interns. They're interns.
Yeah,
you know what? They don't get paid.
Yeah, so there we go.
No money.
Yeah.
Everyone's an intern in Star Trek. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he got done so dirty for such a great, complex character who was so interesting and was such a foil and an ally, which is so hard to do. And he was so entertaining, and I loved him so much. And there were so many other good points to kill him if you absolutely had to. Like when the Changelings were like killing people to get Jack to come to the bridge or something. And he was like telling Seven that there are consequences to your actions as captain. Like that would have been a way better time instead of just like, oh shit, we're running away. I got shot in a hallway.
Oh shit.
I got shot in a hallway?
Oh shit, this should only be the TNG cast. I've been shot. Goodbye. I really agree. I will say that this is both. This is a complaint and a compliment at the same time.
It's fueled by love.
Todd Stashwick owns this character from minute 1.
So good.
Like phenomenal to the point where I'm like, I don't know who else could play you. You came in and really hit this guy. You know this guy, this character so well, of this someone who's like, I follow the rules fuck you, you're a bunch of cowboys. All of you from Voyager and from the Enterprise, you are loose cannon, wildcard cowboys, and 98% of Starfleet cannot function like that in any way. Like, it is just pure suicide mission if anyone other than the 3 luckiest ships in the goddamn galaxy try even one of the moves you've ever done. And it's a level of like, no, you idiots, which is disrespectful to the characters that we like, while also being like protective of them, and just like, he's just a man who knows himself and his own boundaries and his own lines. And I love everything about that. His exasperation with the characters. I adore it.
Yeah, I love him for being like, no, I follow the rules. It's a chain of command. I'm part of Starfleet. You can't just take my ship. I don't care that you're an admiral. I'm protecting my crew in this way.
Yeah.
Like, this is how I stay alive. This is why our ship is still around. And it makes so much sense in the fact that him and Seven don't get along because Seven has only worked with Picard and Janeway, rogue captains, makes so much sense. And it's not because either of them are jerks or either of them are bad at their jobs. It really is just different ideologies.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. It's such a good character arc for both of them, of like, sometimes you have to follow the rules and think of consequences, and sometimes you have to break the rules and fuck the consequences for the greater good.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's your classic Star Trek, captain and number one pairing of like, you want wild card and Excel sheet. Those are the 2 people that you always want in the number one and captainship.
Yeah, like they can switch around.
You can flip-flop it.
You always want one. You want a Janeway and a Tuvok.
Yeah.
I guess Will is the wild card. He's not that wild. He's charming, but he doesn't often go off book.
That is true.
But
Todd Stashwick as Captain Shaw really owns the shit out of that character and deserved a much better death. I agree, they did him dirty.
I actually don't like that he died at all, though. Not just because I liked the character, but because I feel like other than Jack, this show was such an homage to TNG that it didn't add anything else to Star Trek.
Okay.
As like poor characters we'll meet later now that the TNG cast are obviously retiring. And like Seven was already here. We already knew her.
The LaForge daughters, I guess they added.
They were kind of characterless to me.
Yeah.
They were kind of nothing. I liked that Geordi had daughters who joined Starfleet and everything, but they were a little bland. But I thought Shaw was so interesting, and Jack's pretty cool too. But I was like, oh, Shaw will be like a cool captain we can meet in later shows. Like, he can stick around. And to just be like, no, it's just Jack. I was like, oh. So you didn't introduce anything else other than Jack.
Yeah, and I don't mean this as disrespect to Jack or to the LaForge daughters as well, which were interesting characters, well performed. I agree that the LaForges were a little bit underdeveloped to a certain degree. But even the show ending with like, maybe we'll have a spinoff with Jack, and I'm like, give me Shaw or give me death.
All I want is Shaw.
All I want is Shaw.
Jack's
I don't
cool
even,
and he's charming.
And I don't even dislike Jack. I like his performance. I like this characterization. He did a phenomenal job, and I'm ride or die for Shaw. Like, you need to get more Shaw. So I agree with you on huge compliment. Great new character, great casting, wonderful performance. Did him dirty with the death. Not even that satisfying.
Very dirty death, especially because like the other adults got to live. Like Rafi and Seven were just like running the Titan.
Right. Yeah.
Could have just been injured or something. Like, well, injured like how they did early in the season, which was great when he like got his leg all shut up and he's like, Riker, you're in charge of this fucking ship now because you did this. I'm going to my cabin. I'm just going to my cabin.
Yeah.
He just pieces out.
You fix this. You fix this.
I loved that. It was so fun.
It is the exact energy that I would bring to this type of scenario. I'm like, oh, great. It's me. I really like that.
It's your problem now.
Yeah. But moving on to like the rest of the cast, I really do think that that everybody from the original series really stepped up and did a phenomenal job here.
Oh, they do. They have so much fun, but they're also just like, we're serious and our characters are here and we've changed and we've grown. We are not just who we were 20 years ago when the show ended, which was nice because normally I think sometimes when this kind of stuff happens, it's like, oh, you haven't done anything since 20 years ago when we had a finale. Every single one of these characters feels like they've lived a life.
It really does, doesn't it?
And that's really nice and I think different than what usually happens.
And I think it's a huge respect to both the writing and the performance, that the writers, I think, understood the lives that these characters have lived, and the actors really came in kind of understanding that these are different people and kind of bringing in their own flavor of their lives into the role as well. So I think it's a really beautiful performance and personification of everyone.
Yeah, I am. I mean, it would take so long to just go through everyone, but like they all rule.
I mean, I'll just jump out like real quick with like obviously Riker.
Obviously Riker. Oh my God, Jonathan Frakes, you're so charming and fun.
I know last week we gushed about Jonathan Frakes as a director. Jonathan Frakes as a performer in this, and I think directs 1 or 2 episodes of this season. Jonathan Frakes is a goddamn treasure. Holy shit. To the point where, like, I'm watching this and I'm like, I am mad that more studios, shows, and movies have not been fighting each other with bats to get Jonathan Frakes to be in their movie or in their role as, like, the charming, fun guy that, like, he just oozes charisma on screen. It is remarkable.
Ooz's charisma can be comedic, can do drama, but in a way that is so connected to his scene partner. And also his comedy is so connected to his scene partner. Mm-hmm. Like whoever he is working with, he's like, I've just made the deepest connection ever with this other character. And you believe it for every single character. Like everyone he's ever met is the most important person in his life in a way that isn't belittling to every other person he's ever met in his life.
Yes.
It's an impossible form of acting.
Here's the biggest compliment that I will pay to Jonathan Frakes and his ability to do drama is that his drama is not based in acting, it is based in sincerity. He is just being sincere when he's being dramatic, and that is phenomenal. He is not playing it for kudos or accolades. He's not playing it for award season.
Not like Emmy time for Jonathan.
He is just someone who is present in the scene with his co-star, listening and reacting and being there. And it is just sincerity and presence. And that's what makes him funny, and that's also what makes him dramatic, is that he is just there in the moment and scene that it is existing in. And it's a small, understated, yet remarkable ability for a performer to have.
Yeah, every scene is better with him in it, whether he only has one line, whether he's the vocal point, whether he's just in the background leaning against a wall, as you do.
Yeah.
He is wonderful. Yep. Definitely a standout. Yep. I was also going to have him as my standout.
Excellent. And how do we feel about the addition of the changelings now? So we have the changelings added in as the major through line of the season, or one of the major through lines is that the changelings have infiltrated the Federation and are spies within our midst, and you know, it's the thing, and who can we trust, and what's going on? How do you feel about all that?
I really liked this idea because DS9 was like a lot of changelings, but there was never like a lot of like changelings might be in the room with us. You kind of always knew like if changelings were going to be nearby. They didn't infiltrate all that much. They did every now and then, but they had blood tests and stuff. But I really liked changelings being like, they are a Star Trek villain, but the TNG crew never faced them. Mm-hmm. So I think that was a really great way of combining the old with the new again, of being like, the TNG crew's here, but they're not just fighting the Borg. It's only the Borg for the very last episode. They're fighting changelings this time, and they actually don't know how to do it, except for maybe Worf.
Yeah.
So I think they were a cool idea. It was great to, like, you never know who's going to be a changeling, what's going to happen. They're always creeping in. The Vedic? Her name is so far down the IMDb, you guys. Because the first 2 season cast of Picard is like just clogging up the IMDb of this show. I think her name was Vedic.
Yeah.
But she was wonderful. I loved her. She was so scary. Vadic. She
Amanda
was so scary and badass and just like hated. But she felt hatred towards humanity, and like it oozed out of her, and she felt powerful and cool. So yeah, I liked the changelings a lot.
And I like that she kind of reflected this dark side of the Federation as well, of like experimented on and disregarded, and like this
Section 31 shit that the rest of Starfleet like never wants to admit exists.
Yeah, and even her like just talking about like you made a genetic disease. And you made a cure, but we stole it. You didn't release it. We stole it. And it's like, oh shit. Y'all, this is very bad. So yeah, I think she really did a great job. I mentioned to you vaguely before that like I wish she had a scene partner. I think that she is really giving 192% to this character, and like the hatred and like the anger, and it's so real and a great backstory. And all of the other, I don't even know if they were changelings or another alien species that was hired. All of the other ship hands that she has.
Who are they?
Yeah, like because like they weren't the ooze. They weren't choosing
Borg.
a form. They had like weird kind of wolf cat masks.
And they didn't speak English, so they were
made
some kind of
click-clacks.
aliens. Yeah,
So-
what the hell were they?
So, like, I kind of feel bad for Amanda Plummer where I'm like, you got a 5-page monologue and you practiced it and nailed it and it just put the whole scene on your back. But the entire scene is her second in command going, click, click, boink, click, boink. And she's like, yes, the changelings are the victims of the and then talks for 7 minutes and it's moving and powerful. But I'm like, I really wish that I knew who any of the other people on this ship was and kind of had you have a relationship with someone other than with the concept of the Federation was the biggest relationship she had.
I get what you're saying. I don't know if I needed more people on the ship, but I will say, like, easily her best scene is when she's captured and actually talks to Picard and Crusher.
Absolutely.
So, like, that, she definitely, as good as she is on her own, she shone even more when she did have a scene partner. So I don't know if she just needed more, like, open communication lines, which is kind of like a scene, but you're right. Like, as good as she was talking to click-clacks. Or like a CG Borg face. Well, I guess we find out it's the Borg later.
Yeah.
A CG Borg face who would just be like, bring me Jack Crusher. And she'd be like, all right.
Okay, sure.
Fine. Or you'll do what? You're like stuck in a Borg cube.
Yeah, but no one's on set looking at her. It's just... Yeah, it's an extra or a stunt person in a weird black cloak and cat mask kind of looking at her. But I love that character. I love this twist for the changelings. The fact that there are just these people who are just like, no, we never forgave you out there is a huge problem. I love that. Little short-sighted. This will be one of my goofs. Little short-sighted, their plan. To be like, well, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. We will help the Borg. They will destroy the Federation. Step 3, we'll probably be fine. You're ruined.
You're Borg now.
They will come for you. Like the Borg, whose entire objective is assimilate all life, or in this scenario, assimilate some, kill rest. That doesn't involve also changelings are cool. Like, no.
There's no handshake agreement with the Borg queen, okay? I'm like, no, you're cool, Vedic. It's fine. I definitely won't also eventually assimilate or kill you.
Yeah.
Just because I will rule the galaxy, I'm still gonna let you guys live, of course. No, you don't. You know who the Borg are.
It feels like the villain equivalent of like Magneto making a deal with Galactus to only eat a bit of Earth that has humans on it.
Don't eat Krakoa.
Don't
or whatever your place is called. I can never remember.
Genosha. Yeah, don't eat any mutants. And Galactus being like, yeah, sure. Like you can't. Like this is way too big for you and out of your hands to deal with in any regard.
He eats a planet in one bite. You can't pick the mutants out, changelings.
Yeah.
The Borg are gonna blow up Earth.
Yeah, you can't trust the Borg.
You got a changeling down there. You're dead.
You just can't trust the Borg in any way.
Although I feel like the changelings didn't even care. Like, I think they just wanted humanity wiped out. I didn't feel like they were like, and when we'll go back to the Founders world and we'll live our lives in peace. They were like, this is a suicide mission.
I do agree with that. And I kind of, I bought that from her, but I'm like, I don't know if I buy that from everyone else who was
because they are individuals.
And that's the other thing is that like the insanity and anger that Vadic feels, I fully buy into. And I'm like, you don't care if you live or die. Like, you are truly a wild card. But to have a large-scale, long-term conspiracy that involves infiltrating high-ranking government members, it's like, no, I think someone at some point is like, what's our plan? Someone at some point is going to be like, wait, what's step 3, though?
That's why there were no other changelings on the ship with her.
Yeah.
She was like, no one else was on board with working with the Borg, so...
We just have whatever these
So they don't know what step 3 is.
Gotcha.
The other changelings.
Gotcha.
She's keeping that from them. That's her go. So my question for you asked me about changelings. How do you feel about Picard having a son?
I'm kind of whatever on it. I'm like, sure. It ended up with like some really nice scenes and some storytelling from it. I kind of like this exploration of Picard. I like this as a return for Beverly. I think that Jack is kind of an interesting character, especially with the Borg receiver transponder that's kind of genetically manipulated within him. I think that these are some interesting things, but it wasn't something I was like craving or needed, but they did make the most out of this storyline. So yeah, I'm cool with that. What about you?
I'm iffy on it because I think it was executed quite well, but Star Trek has also been so obsessed with Picard's legacy and not having a child for his entire life that it was just so exhausting when they were like, "This is your kid." My immediate reaction. Like, the movie Generations, which you haven't seen, is about Picard's nephew dies. And that would have been like and he always didn't mind that he didn't have kids because he had a nephew who was going to carry the name on. But his nephew died. And he's like, now there will be no more Picards and I have no legacy. And then you have the other like movie Nemesis where he has a clone of himself, which is kind of like his kid. And then you have Elnor, who's kind of like his kid. And it's just like, there's so many, they are so obsessed with the fact that Picard is single.
Yeah.
That it's always been like, just let the man have no kids. I love that about him. It's what he's my icon for. I'm like, I love this single universe trotting man.
Yeah.
Just being like, I'm just gonna live my life and I have a really nice time with my crew.
My family are these people.
So yeah, like I liked Jack. I thought he was well performed. I think the story was very interesting with the genetic Borg stuff. I think that was brilliant.
I think Jack is more interesting as a character, not as Picard's son. I love Jack as this character of this conflict of I don't know why I'm hearing these voices, this sense of loneliness, but a longing for connection that I don't understand. I'm a little bit scared. I want to help people. I kind of like Jack as just like, and maybe even as like, I think he works really well as Beverly's son. I don't know if I needed this Picard thing, but I do think Jack is a very interesting character outside of everything having to do with Picard's legacy per se.
Yeah, he's very interesting. Just even the idea that he can mentally control people who also have the same genetic code as him was super cool idea, like a brand new thing we haven't seen. Really interesting. But yeah, I just didn't need him. I didn't need him to be Picard's kid. And also just kind of made me laugh in parts where it wasn't supposed to. Like when they're both in the Borg mind meld or whatever. And Picard's like, you've changed my life by knowing you. And they have like 3 scenes they can flash back to. And I'm like, you haven't really changed that much. And it's been a week.
And I noticed one of the scenes was a scene between Beverly and Jack. And Picard wasn't there. No. So I'm like, your memory of him was a time you weren't even there, so that's a problem. I also feel like it does Laris dirty as well. Laris or Laris.
You guys spent 2 seasons being like, this is his new love, and he loves being, and he's like, he won't leave her, and he's going to travel with her now at the beginning of this season even.
Yeah. At the beginning of this season starts with like, well, it's time for us to just enjoy life and go on a little personal adventure of me and you. And then he gets called away and everyone's like, Picard, you sad sack fuck, no kids. I'm like, what about...
He's got a girlfriend and he keeps going on adventures and he's still very relevant.
And loves he has a rich personal life.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Get the fuck away. Leave him alone, you breeders.
You do not need children to feel complete.
No.
And I don't like that as the message.
And it was one of the nicest things about Picard's general storyline in life was that you don't need that. Yeah.
I will say what they did right, and this isn't actually about Jack, is he has a conversation with Jack that I loved. And this was such subtle, like what Picard's always been like, of you long for connection, but you step away from it and you won't actually connect with anyone. And the way they told that was so nice at the end when they play poker. Because when you watch TNG, the entire crew plays poker together all the time and Picard never goes. And I always kind of took that as like the captain just leaving, like, I'm the captain, I need a little space between the lower ranks. But it's also like, you know, they were his friends. He should have played poker once or twice with them. And as far as I know, he never attended a single game. So I think this was a very nice, like, he has changed and is reaching for connections, and that's not connected to his son. That is just his friends and life and family. And I think that was his choice. I think that was a really good story for Picard. Really nicely told through the lens of like, you have to really know this character.
Yeah, I can fully see and agree with that. I think that was a beautiful moment of reaching out a little bit. And
he couldn't deal for shit.
Couldn't deal for shit.
He was
Not used to
throwing
play.
those cards.
Wins immediately though.
They let him win.
I don't know. I feel
Beginner's luck.
I feel like that was why he didn't play with his crew. Is he's like, I can't just beat these fools all the time.
He's also a robot now.
That's true.
He might be robot.
I mean, Data's also there as well. So
but Data's been playing with them for like years. He knows how to robot and not robot.
Well, and I think Data should be winning because Data used to always lose because he couldn't understand bluffs.
Oh yeah, that was the point. He could never tell when Riker was bluffing.
Yeah. So now that he has emotions, I felt like it should have been Data just wrecking shit.
That's your bluff.
Yeah,
That's your tell.
I found your tell. Like, yeah.
And Riker would do like fake tells to fuck him up.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I could have, but obviously that would distract from the much more heartwarming Picard has let people into his life. But I'm like, where's your girlfriend, wife relationship? Where's your partner right now? Where is your partner?
Yeah,
that we started the season
not
with?
even a throwaway line of like, oh, we have to wrap up. I have to get back to Loris. Like,
yeah.
Or like she's coming to meet us here.
Yeah.
Like some acknowledgement that this woman you've spent 2 seasons with and seem to love quite deeply.
A little something would have been nice.
A little something for Loris.
I will say Jerry Ryan slaps in this season as she always does.
Slaps. I don't know if they're giving her a show. They can't decide if they are or not. It seems, but
they really can't.
She rules.
Yeah, she rules. So awesome storyline. Just awesome performance. Jerry Ryan fucking rules the whole thing.
Absolutely rules.
Yeah.
Here's a weird combo of a thing I loved and hated. Not hated. I think changing people's DNA with a transporter is one of the most brilliant storylines I've ever heard. Of like, of course, yes, the transporter does rebuild you.
Very smart.
You are broken down, you are rebuilt. You can put just a little bit of new genetic code in someone. God, this is one of the most clever storylines. It explains why you would be activated later, how you can slowly do it to everyone.
Truly genius. It explains finally like why the changelings were avoidant of teleporters as well.
I don't think the changelings were. Ro didn't want to use a teleporter. She wasn't a changeling.
Oh, okay.
I think if you didn't want to use the teleporter,
but no, Vatic also made a couple points several times. She said,
she did want to come on a
taking the shuttle. We're not. We're not.
I just would assume the changelings could just like get rid of it. Like they're always changing their shit.
Right, and also I assume the changelings wouldn't have infected their own teleporters on their own ship.
Yeah, on their own ship.
But like maybe they don't. Maybe she doesn't want to get stuck and have to be teleported out by the ship that's infected.
But I guess it is a good sign that you know the teleporters are up if you're not willing to use them.
Yes.
But anyway, this was an absolutely brilliant. Such a smart storyline. And then combined with the storyline of it only affects you if you're 25 or under was so dumb. If you can't rent a car, you're a Borg. It was the most ridiculous thing. It was so contrived.
Truly idiotic.
Truly, absolutely dumb.
Yeah.
Just like to have the worst possible reason to be like, oh, of course the TNG crew isn't affected. It's only 25 and under. I'm like, you chose a really low number. Like, they're all in their 50s.
Yeah.
You could have gone like 40 to really be like, only the old crew are here.
Yeah, it was very forced. It was very forced all of a sudden that 25 and younger got infected.
And also, I want to point out, I don't think there is this many 25 and unders on a ship.
I see what you're saying, but
like you got to go through the academy. That takes a couple of years. You got to learn about warp cores and shit. That's gonna must take forever.
I feel like the education, the educational skill set that is provided by Starfleet is much higher. You know what I mean? I feel like it's like the school system is really like ramping up education at a higher rate than it is today. So I think that there's that.
I mean, it still takes like 7 years to be a doctor.
I see what you're saying. I think that a lot of them are ensigns and super low ranks. I mean, it's a ship with a lot of people on it. Mm-hmm. And we usually see the command staff, which, yes, are older.
But there are lower decks.
Yeah, there are. Everyone on the lower decks a kid.
I can't wait for the lower decks episode where they all turn into Borg, by the way.
Where they all have to address this.
The episode where they're like, remember we were all Borg?
That was nuts, right?
That was crazy, right?
That was pretty wild.
I think that's a fun idea. If anyone's listening who's writing a Lower Decks episode.
Get on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like I don't remember which character had to say it, but making someone say it's only affecting people who are 25 and under was a real like, get these kids off my lawn. The TikTok generation are susceptible to being drones. Like,
I think it was Beverly who had to say it, who was just like, it's not until the prefrontal cortex is fully developed, which happens at age 25. Oh, boy.
This is some real Palpatine has returned.
And it is a very wild move as well for a show that feels so carefully seeded. Like, it feels like if this whole season, it really feels like they carefully plotted it out and wrote each episode in conjunction with one another and re-referenced and detailed. It doesn't feel like it was like, well, we rushed into production on episode 1 before we were finished writing episode 8. So then in episode 8, when we did this, we couldn't go back and rewrite a thing. It felt like it was all very cautiously and carefully beaded and blocked out for a full season. And then just this one moment feels really kind of rushed and forced in a weird and awkward way.
Yeah, and like they did seed in things so well. Like the fact that we meet Geordi at the Fleet Museum and we don't immediately get the Enterprise then. They wait 3 more episodes to go back to the Fleet Museum and get the Enterprise. Instead, we just get a cloaking device while we're at the Fleet Museum.
Very clever.
Very clever, but like a great way to like seed in, and obviously like we were planning this from the beginning. We did beat out the entire season of how we're going to do everything, of why we would logistically need the Enterprise D. Also, I genuinely think that's a great plot point of it's got older systems and it's not connected to the AI.
Truly love it.
Like that's actually like a great like
a classic Battlestar Galactica is what you've done.
A Fast and Furious whenever the electric modern cars were getting taken over by the hackers.
Sure.
Yeah, you gotta go back to the old school ones that aren't part of the system and they're off the grid.
Love it.
Things used to be made better.
Things used to be better back in the day. Manuals. Carpet. Carpet.
And lighting.
The
difference of carpet and lighting
was better.
Huge.
Here's the thing that I do want to pick on for the 25 and under thing, is that they're like, okay, so it only affects this careful changeling plot of in the teleporters we put in a code based on the DNA of Jean-Luc Picard, but it can only affect people 25 and under. I'm like, but it affected Jean-Luc Picard. What? They're like, so they found the body of Jean-Luc Picard. And they're like, it has its DNA rewritten by the Borg to be a receiver for the Borg, which is a thing we can only do to the DNA of people 25 and under. But you did it to 70-year-old Jean-Luc Picard. So that means that it doesn't need to be done on 25 and under. Literally, your case study for this is the body of a 70-year-old man.
I actually disagree. I mean, this doesn't bother me. I'm so sorry. Because all the older people had the DNA. It just didn't do anything if you're older than 25. Like, they went into the teleporter and the DNA was there.
But they also established that it did do stuff for Picard because that was they even established that was why he could hear the collective, is that the receiver did work.
I actually loved that though, because it did always bother me in First Contact. I'm like, why can't you still hear the collective?
I did also really like that, but it also implies that it works when you're over 25, you fuckos.
Picking up a radio signal is different than being fully assimilated.
Okay.
I would say. I don't know. It didn't bother me.
Sure.
It didn't bother me because they never remote assimilated Picard. They were just like, he can hear us though.
Okay.
He can hear us whispering.
But the whole system wasn't ready yet.
No. The system needed time.
They needed the transponder of Jack for whatever reason.
Yeah, they had to make sure. They knew he was going to have a kid. They were the ones rooting for the storylines of Picard has a child.
They were really betting a lot on that.
This guy does not have a kid.
Yeah, if they were betting money on which one of these people fuck, they should have kidnapped Riker.
Riker should have been the number 1 pick of the Borg. They should have been all over that guy.
They just don't understand humans.
They don't get it.
They looked at the command deck and they were like, obviously, Picard. I'm like, he does get it.
He does get it. He doesn't want kids. They were also obsessed with Data, who also cannot have children.
Yeah.
And they missed out on Riker, who had 2 kids, and Geordi, who also had 2 kids.
Yeah. So
didn't pick either of them.
Oops.
You're assimilating the wrong folks.
Love the credit sequence for this. Oh my God. I was going to say title scene. It happens at the end, but I love what they've done here. It encapsulates the whole season really well. It's just, they've done a beautiful job as well of using the theme in this season and remixing it and redoing it a few different times and being playful about it. But also sometimes they just hit it flat on of the TNG theme. And God damn it, like Star Trek always has great composition and great music, but nothing hits like the TNG theme hits. Like that's the fucking theme. That's the anthem. That hits just right.
Yeah, like they all make you feel nice and give you a sense of awe, but like the other ones are all just like slower with a little bit more of like a dramatic build, and the TNG one is just like, we're going
on a fucking adventure today.
Space time.
Yeah. Have you seen Worf? Like, it's that level of energy.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I remember even when you used to watch the opening credits and the ship just zooms by for every name. It's like, boom, Brent Spiner, boom, Joy to the Forge. And I was always like, oh, everyone gets their own little zoom.
It's great.
It's great. No, the remix is wonderful. You're absolutely right. I also just love the design of like, everything there is an Easter egg that gives away nothing.
Yeah.
And that is such a fine line to walk of like, if you look hard enough, you'll be able to figure out the plot. And you won't. You absolutely will not figure out the plot. Maybe you could have guessed we're going to get the Enterprise D back because it was in the Fleet Museum one.
Sure, yeah.
But everything else was just like, oh, you have to watch the Data episode to know that those are Data's neural links.
Yeah.
You have to find out Jack's a receiver to be like, oh, that's the receiver. Because I thought the receiver was the portal gun.
It did seem like it was going to be the portal gun, yeah.
So like, yeah, it was just all of these hints that gave away nothing, and I was like, oh, this is brilliant. You guys really worked on the whole season as a whole,
yeah,
and like considered it and put it into the credits in this way,
and got it just right.
And it just feels like shows don't do that anymore.
I agree. Yeah, it was just carefully thought out and brilliant. I felt like it should not be an end card. I feel strongly on that. It should be an opening thing, but I think that because that they're streaming this, they're worried people are going to hit the skip intro button or like fuck with a commercial break, because also Paramount Plus I think is commercially supported, so it's a whole fucking thing. But I really do think it should have just been a top loaded title card, and it hits so good.
Yeah, like if we had turned on episode 1 and like within the first, like we were gonna watch it all in the first 5 minutes, you hear this?
I'd be ripping the cushions off the couch.
Our table would be flipped.
I would be uncomfortably excited for the whole thing.
And this man is a new Star Trek fan.
Yeah.
You loved it. Like you've really latched onto it, but like you're not even like I watched it as a kid. Like there'd be deaths.
Yeah.
People would have died of excitement.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why it has to be at the end.
Full-on heart attacks of people in their own.
On like, oh my God, I wasn't ready to feel these things, and I'm just exploded.
Yeah.
We've just exploded and died.
Flown right up to heaven.
We all went to heaven.
That's
nice for us.
That's the Picard effect. Yeah.
I need to get into my other big negative. It bothered me so much. So I liked Jack fine for most of the show. And then I was so furious and hated Jack with all my heart in episode 8 so much. He finds out he's got Borg stuff in his head. And we just spent 8 episodes dying for this kid so that he would not get kidnapped by the changelings and the Borgs. And the second he finds out he's got Borg code in him, he ran to the Borg and turned on the Borg thing. It wasn't even like it turned on and I'm like manipulated now and I'm one of them and I have no control of myself. He was like, I'm going to go confront the Borg Queen and I'm going to talk to her, guys. Don't you worry about it.
I got it.
It was so short-sighted and arrogant and awful. And like literally we saw people get shot in the head directly for him and die so that he would not be taken by the changelings. And I was furious. I feel like I can't even forgive this character.
I think that I could, but I think that they just didn't give it the time that it needed. Because I think this level of like, I'm losing my mind. Like, I actually am hearing voices that aren't real my entire life. I don't know what reality is. I am not fully controlled, but I do feel like I'm getting a call to somewhere
that's really a call to action
that I've been fighting my whole life, and I'm kind of losing it. Like, I think that there is a slow descent to insanity and uncomfort in oneself that would lead to this. I do feel like they hit that switch a bit too fast. I can forgive Jack and I can buy into this switch. I just feel like they didn't quite earn it in the episode where they flicked the switch.
Yeah, I guess.
So I half agree with you on this.
Okay, fair enough. Because, yeah, it's been so many episodes of protecting Jack that it was really a kick in the face of everyone who just died so he did not get taken away.
Yeah.
Like the Vulcan officer who just got turned into dust.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people just got straight turned into dust.
Just because Jack, just to save him.
That's
Didn't even know. So this was infuriating to me. I would have punched him straight in the face after I got him back from the Borg. Be like, you little shit.
Yeah.
Do you know how many people just died because you turned this thing on?
Yeah, like that's so many even though like we air quote stopped the Borg, so many people died.
Yeah, every senior officer on all of those ships that the ensigns killed. So which explains why, Seven immediately gets a promotion, and so does Beverly. All the other senior officers are dead.
Yeah.
Everyone on the defense station, and then they did save Earth. But that's still thousands upon thousands of deaths.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That, like, frankly, could have been saved if he was killed. Like, it's the opposite of greater good. Like, no sacrifice play was made by anyone at any point. And it's like, that felt a little untrek to me, where, like, there is, I think, a level of dedication of, like, go down with the ship, or, like, Picard being like, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to try to save my son, and if not, if I blow up with the ship, I blow up with the ship. But the hesitation of, like, do we blow up the Borg ship while you're listening to the communications of screams as Earth is being shot at and ships are being blown out of the sky, and, like, there's a moment of, like, I don't know, maybe we go in for Jack, though. We could, yes, save the galaxy. Like, it's not really a debate, in my opinion. So I think it gets the scale of it and the morality of it gets a little bit weird a few different times.
Yeah, because, I mean, this is like an original series quote that they use all the time, but the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one.
Yeah.
And, like, usually there has to be a sacrifice play you choose to make.
Sure.
But it's still true.
But yeah, everyone actively chooses the opposite. Everyone's like, the needs of the few or the one outweigh the needs of the many.
This isn't just everyone on the ship being like, we will protect your son, Picard. We think he's cool. This is literally all of humanity dying.
Yes.
In exchange for a kid you met last week.
Yeah. Yeah, so I agree with that. It's Jack's kind of shitty for putting everyone through this, and everyone's shitty for protecting him that hard, that long, and making a series of perhaps irresponsible decisions.
Very much so.
That ultimately lead to stopping the Borg. I want to give like a big RIP and shout out to that one ship of old fucks who managed to fight off the Borg and then get blasted by the whole fleet. I can't remember what ship it was. For some reason, I want to say it was the Defiant, which used to be Worf's ship.
It wasn't, but it was a named ship.
It was a named ship, but yeah, that one ship that was like, we fought back all the Borg. If anyone's out there, we're here. Just a bunch of old bastards doing our best. Hey, why is the whole fleet looking at us? Oh, no! I love that crew. Huge respect to all of the Expendables who did that old mission.
They beat those children up so hard. They were like, finally, we can beat up kids. And they took the opportunity. They ran with it. They destroyed them. They shouldn't have gotten destroyed. They should have had a second plan. They should have been here.
Yep.
Get them in there.
I
get them part of it. I don't know who they are.
Love those people and that ship. Nothing but love and respect to those people.
I love that for you. On the other end of the spectrum, fuck all those cadets who wouldn't let Picard eat his lunch.
They were the worst, huh?
Those fucking fucks.
Yeah.
Like, he sat down. He just got his food delivered, and like 8 cadets are like, can we ask you like 18 questions? He's like, I just really want to eat my fish, please. Mm-hmm. And then just every time you thought they were done, one more fucking question.
I would like to throw additional extra disrespect to the final cadet. When Picard finally says, I would like to eat my meal while it's hot, and a final cadet goes, why don't you tell me about the worst day of your life? Excuse me, you absolute shit? He literally drew the line. It was like, respectfully and with love, I've told you all some phenomenal stories. You're all going to be a family. You're all going to be okay. I would like to eat my dinner now. I'm old and my dinner's getting cold. And one dude asks the worst conceivable human question as a follow-up.
The rudest, most inappropriate question. Maybe his goal was to make Picard lose his appetite and keep answering more questions.
Whoa.
What if I make you think about this terrible day? And then you'll talk to us. Awful. None of you should be graduating. If I was Picard, current Admiral of Starfleet, I'd write all your fucking names down. Never promoted, never promoted, never promoted.
Done.
You are all out of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like latrine duty if we still have that. I don't know what we do for like shitty interns. But
Yeah.
the only one that was acceptable was Jack at the bar, like just trying to like lay low.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
even then you could ask a question sooner.
Yeah. God, that last kid.
It was so many questions.
Mine's less of a question, more of a comment. Do you remember when your friend died?
That's a question, first of all.
What an absolute jackass.
Oh my God.
Yeah, a truly miserable human being.
That's truly miserable. I have two more quick, like, just like positives that aren't, I don't really have much to say, but just moments that I thought were beautiful. I loved, this was like seeded in too quick, but like, I still think it was really nice. I loved Data destroying Lore by turning Lore into him.
Oh, I really love that as well.
I thought that was really nice. Like, it's kind of contrived, the idea that Data can't kill because he's killed a bunch of people. He's a robot who just throws people off balconies.
I've seen him
all the
yeet
time.
a person off of a railing.
I mean, it feels like that like Batman sketch that where he's like, no, they're asleep. I didn't kill them.
They're just sleeping.
If he throws them off a balcony and doesn't watch them land, maybe they're not dead. But no, Data's killed many people before. They might have meant in like only in self-defense he's allowed. But the idea that like Lore is him without love, so he gave him memories of love to turn him into Data. I was like, this is beautiful. This is a beautiful story. This is the most Data-ass shit that's ever happened.
Yeah. And also just like memories of love, and also just kind of this defining characteristic of like, I am my memories. My memories are what make me. If you take my memories from me, you don't take me away. You are me. Like that is the composition of who I am.
He Ship of Theseus Lore.
Yes, he did.
If you take my boards and you build your body out of the boards of my body, you're now the Ship of Data.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that is a Ship of Theseus type of thing. Yeah, he just made 2 ships of Theseus.
But then it made sense of why he was like more emotional and like more fun, because there are still bits of lore in there.
Absolutely. And I really love we've said this before, but really credit to Spiner doing a phenomenal job of playing Data, and of like the live switches as well, which is really well done.
Oh my God, yeah. As soon as they were like, he's Lore and he's Data, I'm like, we're about to see some acting, you guys.
Here he goes.
He has been waiting. This is why he can only do a couple episodes. This is going to be hard as hell.
Yeah, so Brent Spiner really gave a powerful performance there, and then did a great job of the newly multi-personality assimilated Data that he was playing, of kind of making it a new thing as well. Like still Data influence, but with some contractions and personality and charm and joy, but without fully just kind of playing it as himself as well. Like that's not just like, oh, now I'm Brent Spiner and I'm just saying the words. It is a very carefully acted out performance that legitimately does honor the influences of all those distinct performances he has done.
He honored himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like when you're like watching Orphan Black and you're like, wow, all these characters played by they're all Tatiana Maslany. Oh, she is just playing, she's just honoring her own acting choices.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels very similar of like, oh wow, he's made many characters out of this one character.
Yeah.
And he's really combined them all.
He's really nailed it. And it was cool to bring back the original Borg Queen as well.
Yeah, Alice Krieg. They're back again. We just watched First Contact.
And we just watched First Contact. We didn't realize how relevant it would be at the time that we recorded that episode of the podcast.
That's hilarious. Because when we decided to watch that, it was still just Changelings.
Yes, this was still just the Changeling season. But yeah, I think that was cool to and a well done Borg Queen as well.
Yeah, all like messed up, but she still has this like connection with Picard. It made it personal. It was really, really cool choices.
Yeah, they don't really explain how she exists, but they kind of hand wave that. But
I guess she like rebuilt her body with the pieces of other Borgs, like their organic bits, but she was fully dead in First Contact.
I guess she like uploaded herself to a faraway ship somehow through some kind of a series of relays.
I bet she's got some relays.
Yeah, a backup somewhere. But either way, they just kind of hand waved it. They were a little bit like, whatever.
Don't even worry about it.
I do really like in the Borg ship the moment of the Enterprise goddamn Tokyo drifting above the 4 of them in a Michael Bay-esque ass spin shot of them looking up and getting beamed up. I was like, hot damn, these people are cool.
That's great because literally 30 seconds before was going to be my next like biggest thing. I love when Deanna felt Riker and knew where they were.
That was very nice.
That was surprisingly, shockingly powerful. Just like in that moment, he loved her enough that her half Betazoid powers, which never worked that way, could find him. I was like, that's just beautiful. That's just a beautiful story about two people who love each other.
Really nice.
It made me cry super hard.
Yeah.
And I don't cry for Deanna Troi very often.
No.
So,
Yeah.
But I'll cry for Riker.
I'll cry for Riker, but either way, it hit.
It hit really hard.
It just wall to wall hit. Yeah.
Just sensing him so hard that she didn't need sensors. Like,
Yeah.
amazing.
I do feel like the ending of the season and the season finale, they did go a little bit Lord of the Rings 6 prologues. So it did feel a little bit much for the number of endings that occurred.
I think it was an okay number until Jack and Q. I was like, I
Yeah.
feel like this was special enough that I did not want like an Easter egg tag. It's like how Endgame doesn't have a tag.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing at the end of the Endgame credits.
Yeah.
It really felt like we've just told the end of a really huge epic story. Let's just leave it. And then the Jack and Q stuff, I was like, oh, come on. No.
And for me, I think the Jack and Q stuff even kind of diminishes the potential spin-off setup that they have, where they're like, hey, it's Rafi, it's Seven, it's Jack. They're on the Titan together. That's a fun crew, huh? Would you like to see more of that, maybe? Please say yes and we'll make that. And it's like, okay, you know, you're pushing your luck here, really trying to test this spin-off, but I get it. Do your thing, you do you. And then when it gets to the Jack and Q scene, I'm like, but I know this what the spinoff would be. You already pitched me the spinoff. It feels like a very desperate of like, but also these are the type of episodes we would have.
Would you like to see the show Bible?
Is that of any interest to you?
Here are some things worth thinking about doing. And I'm like, this feels less confident.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you definitely haven't been picked up. You don't know what you're going to do with Q. This isn't a lead into anything specific. It's just you being like, do you like Star Trek?
This character also exists and didn't die off and could potentially create for a fun episode arc. Like, it would be really just equivalent of just random episode pitches, ending the entirety of season 3 of Picard with being like, and 7 of 9 has an episode where everything that she dreams actually happens on the ship the next day. That could be a fun one. What if Rafi is abducted by Romulans, but then like really likes Romulan culture and becomes their leader? Is that one? Would you like that?
Maybe someday you'll find out what Seven said as her first order. Was it engage?
Was that
it make
anything?
it so?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there was a little bit too much.
It got a little too thirsty.
I thought everything with the original crew was probably enough. But yeah, when they were like, it's the Enterprise G, I'm like, the numbers are getting high.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be called the Picard, like the show.
Ah, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Thought we were going to do that.
I see what you're
but
saying.
Whatever.
These thirsty asses, though, they got to get a little bit more juice out of that rock.
Oh, God. You got a lot of juice out of it this season.
There's been quite a bit of juice
because
they've gotten out of this.
They also spent the first 2 seasons just getting a little bit of juice. I'm like, I'm so glad they finally just committed. But it is silly that the first 2 seasons were like, season 1 has Data and Riker and Troy. I'm like, okay, but just a little bit of all 3 of those. And then season 2 has a little bit of Wesley and still has 7 of 9. And Soong is still there. Not Data, but Soong is still there. And then they're finally like, we'll just get everyone. Why were we tiptoeing around it?
Let's just do a victory lap.
Guinan was also in season 2.
Oh, yeah, Guinan, yeah.
So yeah, it was silly to be like, it's not a full reunion show. And then finally they were like, it's a full reunion show.
Here we go. Here's the victory
way better
lap.
This way.
Yeah. Well, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything we discussed, what would you change about this if you could change anything? Before we do ask that final question, we will remind you, as we do every week, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Podcast Addict, wherever you might get your podcast.
Yeah, it really helps us out. It makes people know that we're fun, hip, happening, as we have said many times before, as you have all agreed while listening. If they see 5-star reviews that are new and cool, they're like, oh, we'll check this place out, and only you can do that for us. They've really locked down on how many reviews I can leave from my own podcast, which is 0 because I don't have Apple Music. So I'm an Android
Technically,
girl.
it's 1. Technically, you could do 1.
Can I?
You could.
Maybe I will.
Do one.
You're so smart.
But leave us a review, please. While you're there, do it for a few of the podcasts that you listen to. It makes a big difference to all the podcasts that you listen to. It helps us move up the charts, find new listeners. It's super important. And as well, if you want to support the podcast monetarily, you can do that over on our Patreon page, which is at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. With Patreon, you can subscribe on a monthly or yearly level at whatever level is in your budget, whatever you can afford. So you can do $1 a month. That helps support the podcast and the network. Sincerely, those dollars add up and make sure that we're able to do what we do here. Or you can do different levels and you'll get different bonuses. Like even at the $1 level, you get our webcomic text from Superheroes early. Now we have a new $3 level where for $3 a month, you will get the regular episode of the podcast early and ad-free. So what you're listening to right now, you would get it early and you would get it ad-free.
Yeah, we recorded this literally the day Picard ended. You could have listened to it the day that Picard was over, have instant gratification if you wanted to get that Picard hit quick and not wait until the Monday. So it comes out early. It comes out ad-free at the $3 level. At the $10 level, you get an extra episode of this podcast every single month on a topic we don't cover on the regular show.
Yes, you also get the previous bonuses as well. Too. So at the $10 level, you get the $1 bonuses, you get the $3 bonuses, and you get a bonus episode of this podcast every single month. For this month, for the month of April, we did John Wick Chapter 4. Which is an absolute banger, so you can find that episode right now. And also, when you sign up at that $10 hero level, you get immediate access to the back catalog, so you get all the old Patreon episodes as well as then the ad-free episodes, the early episodes going forward. You get all of that good stuff. So check it out and do whatever is in your budget because it all adds up and helps keep the network and podcasts alive and means the world to us. So head over to patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That is patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And now let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? Diana, what would you change?
My biggest change is I think the under 25 thing is so silly. So very silly. I am going to change this to just... So Ro clearly knew about the transporters. I don't know if she knew what they did, but she chose to come over in a shuttle. So she knew the transporters were something with them. I'm going to say Ro warned them about transporters very early in the season. I think she was episode 4 or 5. Like she got there early. And maybe just by chance they hadn't used transporters this whole time. Or like the Titan never got the upgrade yet to the new transporters because it's been out in deep space. So I'm going to say the Titan doesn't have the upgrade. Ro warns them not to use transporters. So then it really is just kind of a gunshot of whoever might be Borg. It's not just 25 and under. It could be anyone. It's not necessarily everyone because some people are just on the ship all the time. They don't transport anywhere. I don't think 100% of the people transport within a month. Like people use shuttles. People don't transport. People are just on staff. So I'm going to say Ro warned them about transporters. They didn't use them, and they didn't get the upgrade. And this under 25 thing didn't happen. It was so silly. It was so dumb. It's my biggest change. I was so forced of why old people are better. Their brains are fully formed. Great. Sure, that's my biggest change. That's it for me.
I'm with you. My change was going to be exactly the same.
No way.
Yeah, of course.
Ro
We got to change.
everything?
Not in its execution, but
Okay.
it was the same premise of we've got to remove the under 25 thing. It is nonsense. It's really hurriedly jammed in. It doesn't match the theme. It doesn't match the energy or the spy or espionage type of vibes of the entire season. So I wasn't going to go for the Ro thing. I was going to go for they haven't updated their teleporter. They've been stuck in a weird gaseous cloud being chased by Vatic and a weird ship that they haven't seen and haven't updated it for what is the Frontier Day. So like Frontier Day is supposed to be the big come in, we're doing updates and then we're gonna show off a fleet maneuver. And it's like, yeah, we haven't because we've been in battle in a cloud. And maybe if you want to have this like conflict within the ship, so maybe some people on the Titan do turn into Borg, and that's a bit of an issue. You could have a transfer of crew. So you could do this like, we came back from the fight with Vatic. We don't know what's going on. Maybe some crew got transferred in and out at some point, even though you didn't get the update.
Ro took a bunch of crew when she arrived.
So I think she even said that. So that could be a great excuse for like, oh, some people got transported or got some people got teleported out and switched with a different crew, and that fucks things up, and now those people are Borg.
Love that.
You know, and if you want the internal conflict of like the LaForges being Borg, it could easily be like when they got to the museum. You know, maybe the original crew took a shuttle, and the LaForges did take a teleporter. Boom. So I think I would just do it as simple as that. Of like, they didn't get the update yet.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
But I like your Row edition as well. I think the Row edition is very smart.
I think it works well with didn't get the update, and then we'll refuse all updates. It's like when your computer is like,
Right.
would you like to update to Windows 11? I'm like, no.
Yeah. No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Something's gonna go wrong.
No,
when
thank
I
you, transporter updater.
Nope. So yeah, I'm with you. That would very much be my change as well.
Excellent. Love that for us.
Yeah.
Same change.
Same change.
Same hat.
Other than that, though, just a really wonderful show with just one silly moment about age, and other than that, everything absolutely slapped.
Pretty good percentage of things that slap
Yeah, a good slap percentage.
to things that don't slap.
Absolutely.
Real high.
Well, that's going to be it for this week for talking about Picard. Next week on the podcast, we're going to be talking about The Mandalorian Season 3.
Mando, he's back.
Mando is back, so we'll be talking about Mando and all of Season 3 next week on the podcast. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can find me on Instagram at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can find me at Words of Diana.
And you can find both of us at From Superheroes, and we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.